This is Lighthouse Healers, take two, or session two.
All right, session
Lighthouse
two.
Healers introducing Greg H. Bicknell, and our special guest today is Sean Adams from, is it London? Are you in London, Sean?
I'm in Bedford in the UK. It's outside a little toilet called Luton. Everyone refers to it as the toilet of the UK.
So again, so now you got to explain it. All we know from North America is London. We're lucky we know.
Oh fuck yeah! All you know is John Smith in London, right? Oh, I don't know. We're about an hour from London.
Okay, so
about an hour from London, and we're in the three counties: Bedfordshire. Can't actually think what the other two counties are, friend, because I only lived there for a while. How can you put it? Bedford.
Yeah, we'll get it.
We'll near Milton Keynes. The best I can do is near Milton Keynes.
Those that really want to know can look it up.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those towns. If you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't know it was there.
So, awesome. Sean, so neither Greg and I have this our first introduction. So, welcome, pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet both of you.
Yeah, and welcome in.
We don't know your journey, we don't know your story, and what's the biggest thing you'd like people to get out of this? We'll call it an interview today.
From my side of things, just knowing where we are. I mean, it's surprising the amount of people that need help that can't get it through the local authorities or the medical insurance, that turn to people, organizations like ours that started out as Facebook pages.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually surprised
there's people out there that are feeling completely isolated and thinking about checking out early. That's what I hope to get out of it, reach those people.
Beautiful. And that's what I like. We're all on the same page with that. We're all about others. None of us is like, I want popularity. I want people to know who I. It's like, no, man. We want to touch them by the millions, but we want to touch them by the millions to help them.
Yeah. And there's so many of these pages on Facebook, and they stay exactly where they are because their intentions are not good. They're not true. They're just there to get the clickbait thing, and it's popularity contest. Yeah. Well, we've stood on our own for that long. Nobody actually lays claim to the name, the War Within. It's become an entity of its own now. So it just uses as and when it sees fit, and then the next lot roll in, and so it avoids the ego, building the ego, because we've had that problem in the past where people have actually tried to delete it. They've tried to delete all our data because they thought they were PTSD, the War Within, and they couldn't function without them. And the way that our organization works, we avoid any of those problems, because it's the people that we're helping. Nothing else matters.
Right. And then, I think that is part of the big thing is, and I think in some of these places, they kind of start with a good heart, and then it kind of goes south at some point. And I've seen it in so many, because I work with quite a few, nonprofits, and I've seen ones that come in and they start and they have all this energy. And then at some point with some of them, it all of a sudden turns to about the money. And that really, that really hurts, because you see some of these organizations doing amazing things, but then when it takes that change, you can almost see a change in their attitude, their posture, their demeanor, everything. And you're like, okay, there's been a switch flipped, and that's when you start worrying.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I insist on anybody that wants to work for us has to have PTSD, and we start from there. You get so many people that have got good hearts, and they don't keep that same energy they had on day 1 to day 3. We've stood for 11 years now, and we've worked. I've worked for 10 years. No, sorry, 2011 it was founded. I've worked for nearly 11 years for them, full free, quite happily. I get plenty out of what I do. And most people will say it's really cathartic, and it truly is.
And what is your background, Sean? Would you mind sharing your story a little bit with us?
Not at all. Bear with me. I've never done this before. I have never told my story before in any way. Right. Do I start at? Right. So I suppose my PTSD. the
We'll jump
PTSD
all around with
journey.
your story, Sean. We'll take it wherever you want to go, and we'll come back around at the beginning and start at the front and end at the.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I work better that way. I do work better that way. Yeah, I suppose my journey literally started when I was about 5 years old. It was mum, dad, you know, me and my sister. We thought we had, you know, as little kids, we thought we had the perfect life. Didn't see anything coming. Family imploded in, sort of just blew apart one night. My dad had had an affair, leaving my mum. It was a really messy breakup. I ended up in foster care for a couple of years, and this is where I'm trying to work out where my PTSD actually started. So I think it started that night, when we went into care. But while I was in care at 7 years old, I stole a motorbike, and I was riding it about 30 miles an hour, no helmet. And in the 70s, they didn't have to put up warnings if they put scaffolding. Do you call it scaffolding? Yeah, the frames around the buildings, yeah. But they didn't have to tell you they'd put that up overnight. So I took a left turn at 7 years old. I was doing about 30. I looked over my right shoulder, and as I turned around, I face planted straight into a scaffolding at 34 miles an hour.
Wow.
So I'm not sure if it started there, because that was pretty traumatic. When I joined the army years later, the EMO said, "When did you break your jaw?" I said, "I haven't, boss." He said, "You fucking have, lad, in at least 5 places. And your nose, your cheekbone looks like it's suffered. Your skull's out of line." There was quite a lot of injuries. That all healed naturally. So that's where my pain tolerance came from as well, started. Played American football for quite a long time. I think that prepared me for a career in the army, to be honest, because we were trained like a military unit, and everything I did addictively. I should probably mention that. Joined the army. I joined when I was 19. Passed out when I was 20. When I went to the recruitment centre, I got a colour sergeant from the British Army. He said, "What are you thinking?" I said, "I'm thinking about the Royal Navy colour sergeant." "What the fucking hell do you want to do that?" I said, "See all 7 continents, you know, get a career, fixing washing machines." I didn't know that at the time. But I said, "Yeah, just have a great life." He said, "Well," and you got to remember, I'm like 19 years old, full of testosterone. He said, "If you want to feel a man, by all means, join the Navy. If you want to be a fucking man, lad, join the army." So I joined the army. Spent 7 years in the light role infantry. Spent some time in Bosnia, Iraq. That was pretty rough. Excuse me. Bosnia was pretty rough. By the end of my army career, I had been diagnosed with PTSD and multiple traumatic brain injuries. Came out, obviously. When I left the army, yeah, I milled around in a few jobs for a while. Nothing really worked out, especially when you punch your line manager for shouting at you and barking orders at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should probably mention that I got married along the way as well. While I was, yeah, well, sorry, this Iraq thing is really just,
you know, and this is the thing, Sean, is you know, I'm kind of right there with you right now. We don't want to push you somewhere that you don't want to be, because you know, the thing about is you know, I've been there too. I'm a 29-year retired Air Force guy. I've been in Iraq. I supported Bosnia. I've been in Afghanistan. Been into quite a few of those places, and so that's kind of, you know, I feel your pain because I've sit down and had these conversations with so many people, and sometimes, you know, the mere fact that you said this was your first time having that conversation, right? And I did that myself probably 3 years ago, And when I did it, it gave me a little bit of power, over what had been having power over me. And I ended up doing some speaking engagements around the country. I'm an Air Force wounded warrior. And so they kind of helped me or send me around the country here to talk about folks that may need some services that they weren't willing to ask for. And so that really, my first time telling my story was extremely powerful. And I'm just sitting here, and I kind of, we were talking about our episode the other day, I've got chill bumps. I can probably show them to you. They're standing up because I'm so humbled and honored. Like I'm getting emotional myself right now that you're willing to share. And that means something to me as a military guy myself, and just someone that loves human beings. I really appreciate your willingness to kind of talk to two guys you've never met, but to tell your story. And we don't want to push you somewhere you don't want to go, because I don't like going to those places either.
But I go there quite a lot anyway. I mean,
yeah, I know.
We go through it daily, don't we? But I didn't expect that to catch me out. Normally I tell snippets. There's a lot of the engaging work we do online. So I end up showing snippets, and I can cope with the little sections, the little portions, but I've never tried to just eat the whole cake.
Yeah, and that's well with it myself.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and when you sit down, and my thing is that sometimes my reactions will spring out of nowhere, maybe like yours did there, to where it's emotional, but sometimes anger is what will come out of me. And I'm honestly, my family becomes shocked about it, because I was always able to control it, kind of like what you're talking about now. But I had a brain surgery in 2018, kind of had the same symptoms as a TBI. They call it brain syndrome. And I got to where I couldn't control anger outburst, and it was like I'm either all the way on or all the way off. And I don't laugh because I think it's funny. It's frustrating. And some of the things I was able to,
it just somehow squeezes a laugh out eventually.
Yeah, some of the things I was able to hide or maybe tuck away before, I couldn't do it after that surgery. And so you just never really know when it's going to hit. And that's a tough part about PTSD is, folks seemingly going through life, everything's roses and butterflies and unicorns, and then all of a sudden something happens, it triggers it, and now we've got to figure out a way to work with those folks, or to figure out a way to kind of interact in life the way we used to. And I've come to the conclusion, we talked about it yesterday, Sarah and I've come to the conclusion I'm never going to interact the way I used to, but I've had to get good with who I am today, and that's what's been allowing me to push forward.
It's doing this that's helping me. Doing the working on the war within.
Right. Yeah, it's therapeutic, isn't it?
I think it's the best therapist I've ever had. It really is.
I agree. That's just what I told people. I said, I would be lying if I said helping people didn't help me.
Yeah.
Because I get to see their successes, and I get to walk through the tough times, which allows me to kind of walk through some of my stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and it's a real honor and a privilege to be allowed and to be trusted to work with somebody in their life at their most vulnerable time.
I think that's where Greg came up with the term.
To me, that is an honor. It's a real honor.
Sorry, and that's where I learned the term from Greg of you got to give a hand to get a hand, and we don't realize how powerful that is. And it gives you motivation as well to when you're helping somebody else. It's again, their life is literally in your hand.
Yeah. That's the scary part for me.
You betcha. Yeah. And then you're learning the tools and you're applying the tools yourself as well, because you want to get better. So it's not a matter, and like where Greg says, he's or not comfortable with where he's at, but accepts where he's at, but I'm still going to the next stage.
That's it. I mean, you don't have to be comfortable with it, but you're damn well better accept it. If you don't accept where you're at, then you're in trouble.
And I hadn't been. Sean, that's what was, I hadn't been. I'd been telling Sarah and everybody else, I just want to be the old Greg. I just want to be the guy I used to be. And I was never going to be that guy, no matter how hard I wanted or tried or focused. And finally, within the last year, I've been able to say, you know what, here's where I'm at. I want to keep doing better. I want to keep progressing forward. But the first thing I had to do was accept, this is me now. This is where I'm at. And if I keep reliving the past, I'm never going to be able to walk myself into the future. And so it's a very
humbling. Did you go through that little grieving process?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did.
yeah,
And it's the scare, we talk about how these things and we get terrified. I'm going to tell you a little story, but I was working with somebody. I do some trauma protocols, right? And I was
yeah,
on the phone with this guy who I had known for quite a while. And again, he gave me the trust and said, "Hey, I want to work with you." And so we were in the middle of going through some stuff, and I lost contact with him. And he was at a moment to where he was having a breakdown. I was going to have to bring, but I couldn't because I lost my internet went out at my house. And so I was in a really rough part, or not a rough part, but I was in a place to where even on my cell phone, the cell didn't come in very well. So I had to go jump in my car and drive down the road. And while I'm driving down the road, I'm on the phone trying to reach out to the doctor that had kind of worked with me to teach me some trauma protocols. And I'm going, please call this guy. I've never been so worried in my life. And luckily she was able to get a hold of him. But that person trusted me, and then things went bad. Nothing I could have control over. My phone, internet, and everything went out. And I was like, my gosh. And that really hit me that day as I realized exactly, what I had been allowed to do, and like what you've been doing. It's just awesome. 10, 11 years. My goodness. Man, awesome.
yeah, yeah. It really is. I mean, 10 years later, and what I'm touching on, something you touched on earlier, is that fear. It's scary having somebody's life in your hands. I was talking to one of the senior admin from the Facebook page. Was it last night? Yeah, it was last night, and I said it still scares the shit out of me. I said I look at the numbers, and we got 300,000 people coming in regularly. I said that scares me to death.
So I'll get you.
And she sided with the, "Oh, babe." And I said, "No, oh, babe." I said the day it stops scaring me is the day I will quit.
Right.
So Greg and I are talking a lot on the words we use. So the emotion behind fear and excitement are the same, but how we take that word is different. So change that word of this, I'm afraid of this, to this excites me. It's the same emotion. Might as well just use a different word that drives
it's
you more
literally
and
the same energy.
Back, right?
The same nerves are tingling inside, the same energy. Yeah. Yeah. I feel a bit of a dunce, to be honest, because I'm a qualified psychologist, but I've also had 7 strokes. A lot of that information has just disappeared now.
Well, I'll tell you, your ability to connect, like with us talking right now, that's the greatest skill set, that anybody can have. And the fact you've been doing it for so long, that shows, your longevity and the willingness just to say, you know what, I'm here for you. Sometimes it doesn't take an education to show love. It doesn't take or a stroke. My dad right now, my dad's been going through some stuff with a stroke, and he kind of presents like dementia. He just had a cochlear implant put in yesterday, but they say he has no signs of. They say he have no signs of a stroke, but he can't remember why he can't hear. So I'm on the phone texting with my mom, and my mom's going, he keeps wanting to rip it out, and he's saying, I can't hear. And she's like, we know, we told you couldn't hear for 3 weeks. And I think things like that are, we get to those points, and something that Sarah and I've talked about is, as people progress, sometimes they forget how they got to the progression. And then when you have those conversations and you look at how maybe other people have done it, it allows you to say, okay, now I remember. And you kind of get that check swing, or go fix your grip if you're a golfer. And now you kind of recage yourself and say, okay, now I'm back on the right track. And that's what groups like this to me do, is they allow us to sit and talk and keep people where we want them, and try not to let people regress. That's why, 10 years, there's a lot of folks out there, I'm sure, that are crazy happy they met Sean Adams. I know there are. I have no doubt.
See, this came up within a group chat, actually. It wasn't group therapy. It was more like a free. It was group therapy. It was just, there was no agenda. It was just talking freely. I'm trying to remember what we're talking about now, because the stroke thing's just happened again.
Just about helping people and the progression of the people over the last 10 years that you've helped.
Yes, that's it. knowing, I mean, every now and again, somebody will come in and say, I'm living my best life now. Thank you. You're amazing. Thank you. Who are you? Because there's so many people. And I always tell everybody, I might not remember your name, and the chances are I won't, so please forgive me in advance. But I will always remember what you went through. I always remember people's stories.
Well, see, Sean, we just had a moment
because I get the thank yous. One year, a lady contacted me. She said I'd run the bone frog. Have you heard of the bone frog challenge?
What's that?
Bone frog challenge. The Navy SEALs set it up.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, she ran tier 1 and 2 because 4 of her friends were veterans and they're still alive because they work with me, and I still don't know who they are. I don't know when they came to me, what work I did with them, because she won't tell me their names or what I thought had happened. But she ran the challenge and she completed tier 1 and 2. So she took the bone frog green spray paint, and normally it's US veterans, as far as I know. They're usually killed in action, but US veterans anyway. Well, Jess grabbed the bone frog board, not any old board, right under the bone frog in bone frog green, in capitals, Sean 80 Adams, and then in brackets just to piss everybody off, UK. But that is one of the most touching things anybody has ever done to say thank you. Immortalize me on the bone frog board.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I got sent a couple of Armed American Supply t-shirts, you know, the Red Friday t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Just about keeping the dumb fuckery to a minimum was on the
Yeah, absolutely.
Just little things now and again, and it's not what they send you, it's just nice that they remembered you. And I want to tell you that they're alive, you know. It's amazing.
I have this friend of mine. We've been friends for over 30 years. We actually, my first date with my wife, when my wife was my girlfriend, was with him and his wife at the time. And we've been friends for over 30 years. And I was going through some really, really tough times about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And this guy reached out to me, and we've been staying in communication, but he reached out and said, hey, I've got this thing we do out in Kansas City. I want you to come join us. And, you know, you talk about that thing that changed your life. It's called Warriors Ascent out in Kansas City. It's a 5-day retreat, and they have their program is amazing. And I was ready for it. I was ready to accept it. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, man, you changed my life. Like that whole thing there. Like I am so loyal to them because he called me just like the military buddies will do. He really didn't give me a choice. He made it sound like I had one, but he wasn't going to take no for an answer, because we were having these conversations, and whether it was on the phone or whether we were looking at Zoom or whatever, he could look at my face and tell I wasn't where he was used to seeing me. And he said, Greg, you need to come out. You need to come out to this. And I did. And there was a lot of things came together that week. And it just really, it's what allowed me to be sitting here today, you know, with you guys.
Because I wouldn't be alive really today if I hadn't. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, you're good.
It just made me think. Then I said to somebody a couple of weeks ago, I said I wasn't lucky enough to find my savior in the form of a God. I said my savior came along in the form of 18-hour day works, 18-hour work days, and an agreement not to quit with, I think it's 2,890 service users. And they've only got to keep their word to one person.
Right.
That's how the War Within came about, funnily enough, because it was a bit of a myth. I never found out. Nobody could find out. And one of the admin, her name's Angela, on the Facebook page, and she did something for me in the first 5 days that she started working for me, and I thought it'd take about a week, 2 weeks. And I said, you're an absolute angel, thank you. And that's how it came about with that. What are we talking about? That was it. She said, oh, you're never gonna believe what I've got. I said, what? She said, I've got all the founding information for the War Within. And it was originally started by a recruit for the RAF, the Royal Air Force here, and he wanted to make a difference to British homeless veterans that were on the streets that had PTSD, and that's how it originally started. But this is where I'm trying to take the war within eventually, so that we can offer things like that.
Yeah,
you know,
no,
I
that's
mean,
great.
I know it's aiming high with no Wounded Warrior Foundation, but you know, to eventually be able to offer retreats, to get centres set up so that people that have them medical insurance deny them assessments or deny them treatment after assessment, and it's not good enough. So I'm gonna, I mean, if we have to take in locums, as long as they're good at their job, you know, and decent people, then fine. I don't care how we have to do it, but I want to get these centres set up where people can come in, just wandering off the street. Well, okay, thanks for the assessment and the diagnosis, but now it doesn't cover my treatment. Forget it. You're welcome. Come in. Refer out of house where we can. But there's a lot of mind planning involved. Still haven't got it down on paper.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually to have assessment and treatment centres, you know, outpatient treatment centres, to have detox centres, have centres specifically for veterans, military veterans, first responders, maybe. I don't know if to throw it all in together, but it seems to, I don't see that usually any problem between military and first responders. Work pretty well together.
Yeah, you know, I think they do. And the one thing I found,
in
you
a
know, about the
therapeutic environment, definitely.
Yeah, the veteran and first responders. The one thing I have found that actually a first responder taught me while we were doing a retreat is, you know, a lot of time the veterans, we've went through and we've kind of retired, or we've separated, and now we're out of our career. We're kind of in our next career. And a lot of times with them, they're still in the midst of their career. So sometimes I found that when I'm working with first responder, EMS, and I have to deal with them maybe a little different because they're very hesitant, because you know, for the military folks, we can talk freely, and sometimes they feel like they can't. And so with them, sometimes it's a struggle to get, you know, things out of them. But eventually, when you do, you feel like you've kind of conquered, you know, you conquered the world. You're like, all right, finally a breakthrough, you know,
especially with you, Greg, because you understand exactly like that. You understand exactly what that was, because when you were in the military, you couldn't admit to where you were mentally or physically, right?
No, oh God, no. Nobody wants to be standing in front of that guy.
No.
Or next to that guy. Or behind that guy. Or anywhere near that guy. No. You just don't say anything.
Where the mindset is, you know, and when I talk to corporate, I say, you know, when I was in the military, we did things that when you think of it from a corporate planning perspective, you're like, that's not even possible. Like, I'm going to take 100 people, I'm going to put them in a plane, I'm going to bring another plane with a bunch of stuff on it, and we're going to land somewhere on the other side of the world, and we're going to fully stand up, and within 6 hours after hitting the ground, we're going to be running full operations, you know. And you tell that to maybe a civilian corporation or someone that's not used to that type of mobility and flexibility. They're like, that can't even happen. And you're like, well, it does. It happens all the time, you know, and it becomes part of our mindset. So when we get out and go into the civilian workforce, we have to reel it back in, because we're thinking, what do you mean it's not possible? I could do it by like 3 hours from now. Let's make it happen, you know, let's grind it out, you know.
Make it happen, get it done, any of those,
But the grind it out mentality sometimes is what puts us in these dark places, is because we don't allow time for ourselves, you know, and say, you know what,
I find it hard. I find that hard to find time for myself with mental health, my own mental health, because I have severe complex PTSD, dissociative identity disorder. What else is there? Bulimia. There's an eating disorder in there. Traumatic brain injuries. There's quite a lot in there.
So let's stick to that for a second, Sean, if you don't mind. So how do you deal with that? How do you make time for yourself, right? Because that's the most important part of your day, is time for yourself. Greg and I were talking about this on our last podcast. That's how I first started out the introduction is, Greg, what have you done today for yourself? That's the most important, because you can't. I'm a big believer in that. The oxygen mask, always put yourself first and then help the guy beside you, right?
Well, I'm always making the people, well, not making them, but I do nudge them to tell me what they're doing for yourself. What are you doing for yourself today? And I just slap it on the website, Facebook page, whatever, and just leave it there. What are you done for yourself, just for you today? And I'm sitting there thinking, shit. Well, nobody asked me that question.
Yeah, we do that. Yeah, it's easier to be the asker instead of the askee, right? Be the one asking the questions versus the one have to answer it. It's tougher to have to answer it.
Him?
Yeah. Who are you talking to?
On the psychology side of that, again, we're avoiding it. How do you stick to that routine, or how do you stick to that part of your day where you help yourself first, or at all in that day?
Yeah.
What's the strategy for people?
I used to I think my morning just used to be I'd sit on the balcony, have a coffee in the morning, and a cigarette, and then just turn up some Five Finger Death Punch really loud and just spend about an hour in the shower, because that was my little retreat, the shower, because for one, there were 3 locked doors between me and the outside world. So eventually, after about 5 years, I managed to start closing my eyes in the shower. Not for long, having a quick look round and then back down and quick look round. And eventually it really became a therapeutic retreat for me. And I know it probably sounds really pathetic, but you take what you can get. Where you can.
No, I'm sitting here going, man, I'm gonna go take an hour-long shower here. I get yelled at. I got 3 girls in the house. They'll be banging on the door. Like, what are you doing?
Get it.
So forget about it. I don't. Yeah. I was. So this inside of this, you see, I got a cup here, and one of the things, Sarah and I have been talking for quite a while, and he would say, Greg, I need you to wake up out of bed, get out of bed, and go just slam water. Like as soon as you wake up, just drink that water because your body needs it. Well, me, I was drinking Diet Mountain Dew, right? That was my water. I don't drink a lot of water, but there is water in here, so I'm drinking more water. I'm trying to get better. There's water here. When I get up in the morning, I get up out of bed, and I go and I have that water, and then I kind of start my day. But my biggest trigger to get things going correctly is just when I wake up, is to that we were talking about the last time Sarah and I talked, was just getting up and moving forward and getting that bottle of water in. It seems like after that chain reaction of I'm moving forward, I'm on the right side of the dirt, I'm up, I got my water in me, maybe I'll brush my teeth, and then like my day kind of kicks into high gear. And when I lay in bed and don't jump out, then it's like I don't sit there and think about all the great things I'm going to do. When I'm in bed, I'm thinking about, I don't really want to get up. This sucks. This bed is so warm, and it's, so when I just get up and get after it,
my knee hurts and my back hurts.
Right. Oh yeah. Like, I slept wrong last night. But when I get up and get going, that really kind of puts me in that positive energy,
Yeah, I find the same.
That's a huge one for me.
At one point, I was, I don't know if I think you have on your side. It's like a community, you can't exactly call it gym facilities, but they'll just stick it in a park somewhere and you can work out a little. Leave there. There's one down the road here, and I used to go out 5 o'clock every morning during the summer, and just have a little workout as the sun came up. Open air, and religiously, I used to start that routine by howling at the moon for 10 minutes. And that really got my energy flowing, and that got me on the machines working out. And that was the start of my day. Get back, get in a hot bath, make a coffee, then go on to the war within. Whereas now, if I do manage to ignore the phone all night, and I can't really do that now, I just can't afford to do it.
I'm going to come back around to it. So we know what we need to do. Even so, I've developed a program. There's nothing new in my program because it's all information we know. But how do we get people to do it? And I want to go with you specifically because you're at that point, right? How do you specifically force yourself to jump out of bed? How do you force yourself to have that? That's not a force. Because it's an amazing feeling after you do it. After you jump out of bed, you go work out. You said it gives you a massive amount of energy. How do we get that? Where's that switch is what I'm always big on. Where's that switch that makes you do it?
Okay. I've got, it's a hard one because a lot of the time, if nothing else gets me up, then I know that other people are relying on me. And if nothing else, and it sounds egotistical, but I know they are. I know there's a team that will start milling around, panicking if something goes wrong and somebody says, well, we better ask Sean. That's it. It's like headless chickens running around in a coop until I get there.
So
it's a little bit. It is a little bit
just,
different for me.
Just stop. Hold on for a second, Sean. Sean, hold on.
It's a little bit different for me.
You hit the answer right there on both parts. And we were talking about it again, Greggy, last time. It's camaraderie. It's the people around us. We don't do things by ourselves. Together, we can accomplish anything. And that's exactly what got you out of bed was. People are relying on you. It's a wickedly valuable and important answer.
And pain tolerance is the other thing that gets me out of bed because I'm on the threshold of terminally ill. Gulf War syndrome's done a hell of a lot of damage. And this is the perler. I wish I could find the letter when the MOD's reply was not service related.
Oh, wow. Okay. We see that a lot.
Right. But so far, that's caused the strokes, a heart condition, major renal failure. So, I mean, stage 3 liver failure, stage 2 kidney failure. And that's not going to get better. There's a few other things going on. So a lot of the time, it's just sheer will. I have to John Wick my day. I really do. It's just nothing else but sheer. I have to use anger and sheer will and drive and stubbornness. You want the real truth from the nitty-gritty days. That's what gets me on.
Yeah, it's not good. You have to deal with all that.
The military inject into you. They just want you to give up, and sometimes you hate it, but you're kind of glad it's there.
Yeah, I was going to say that's part of that. Trained mentality is. Here in the States, one of the things they've done for us is you talk about the Gulf War syndrome and stuff. Is we just had the PACT Act that passed. And what it did is it actually took some of those connecting injuries and stuff that they're kind of the assumed things that are connected with some of the other stuff that's going on with us. And it's really been a good thing. The VA, they got this one right. And because there's a lot of folks out there, and it goes back actually quite a bit further than the Gulf War. I think it goes all the way back to like Vietnam and Agent Orange. Again, I'm not an expert.
Well, that's the thing. I was told I was hitchhiking about 100 miles back to my hometown. I was just hitchhiking one day because you can't settle down. You did the geographical for a while, realize your problems are just right behind you. I was hitchhiking back. It turns out he was a former medical officer. And I said, "Boss, can I ask you a couple of questions?" He said, "Yeah, stop calling me boss." So I said, "Are you finding you're having this problem now, or this is happening to you, or you're getting in it?" He said, "I'll stop you right there, lad. We did it to you." He looked me dead in the eye. We're doing 85 miles an hour down the motorway. He said, "We did it to you. Sorry, lad." And it turned out it was supposed to be all the inoculations. Because in Iraq, I was never anywhere near. None of us were near WMDs, really, but certainly weren't near any depleted uranium. I've never been to the Gulf before. I've never been since, but it's not service related. So, and that doesn't help at all because it just makes it even harder to prove that it's real and get treatment for it. And that's something else that we do as well. It's like when the DSM-5 took PTSD out as a mental health condition. We do a lot of work on the side fighting for things like that as well. But yeah, it's Gulf War syndrome. It's caused brittle bone disease as well, and depleted immune system. So yeah, to the point morphine doesn't work. So yeah, I literally have to John Wick my morning, and then that's just the best way I can put it.
Right.
But if the ultimate motivation is that, there's people that need help, and nobody's helping them. And it's fucking heartbreaking.
It is, and that's what like with. I'm sure you're the same way. Is I look at the system, the capacity that they have, like with the VA here, the Veterans Administration, or even my hospitals. There has to be the public service like what you do and like what Sarah and I do. Because if there wasn't, there just isn't. Like someone needs to go in for counseling. Sometimes, the VA, you have to wait a month. And sometimes folks, they may not be on the edge of total disaster, but they need someone to talk to so they don't get there, And then the thing that's even worse, this is my opinion, is that, once we get folks through these retreats and through, the help, is the aftercare. There's really no money. There's no services that we have here that's directly related to the aftercare. It's all about getting folks to the services. But what do we do once they get there and they come out? You know, that's my biggest concern. Is I think that's where we lose a lot of people. Is they
Well,
go and
this
they get
is more of a
frustrated.
test. It is the aftercare. That's where the failing in the system really is. If the treatment is there for once, you actually can access treatment. That's where you'll fall down as soon as the treatment's over. Within the first month, most people fall.
Right.
That is more.
Sean, say that
That's a
again.
tertiary. That's the more of. I mean, I'm about expanding at the minute because we're not helping enough people and we're not helping them enough, which is why I'm trying to monetize the project.
Right.
But that's something that I said to them as well, when they just think it's pipe dreams. It really isn't. I haven't worked for 11 years on this, given my health and everything else, just to let it turn back into a Facebook page and not help anybody. But they, one of the tertiary projects is aftercare retreat.
Oh, okay. Good.
For the people that we do that go through our books completely. Then there's got to be some sort of aftercare retreat, along with some sort of aftercare for people that have gone through the detox centers. You can't just let them loose.
Right.
No, to leave them to their own devices, within a month they will fall. I guarantee it. 8 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 people, it'll go wrong for them.
And it's sad to see that.
You've really hit a big problem here in the UK, aftercare.
Yeah, same with us. You know, is with you know, with me as personally, is that, you know, I would go and seek treatment. Like I went through a lot of stuff with vertigo and things, but I would go and the doctor would always tell me, you're better. Like I would go back to visit him, you're better, you're doing. I'm like, I'm not. Like you've done nothing except for give me pills. I'm still not doing any better. And so by the time I finally got to where I started receiving good services, I was so turned off and so frustrated with the system of like, man, you're not ever getting to what I need. And I hear that so often, is that, you know, folks are going down a good path, but then something happens, maybe they get that bad experience. And now it's like, hey, and so we got to infuse that back to where that's where that brotherhood is. Like my friend Carrie was like, hey, no, you're coming out here. You need to come out here. And that's where that camaraderie and accountability and all of that stuff comes in. And then the aftercare of, you know, the aftercare is just being a human being and, you know, trying to help each other and staying connected. And
yeah. I don't know if you're aware of Donny O'Malley, that he's making a big push. Vet TV.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the guy who started that, you know, it was the same thing. It just echoed his words: social connections save lives, social media connections save lives.
Right.
You know, just pick up the phone and call somebody, make sure they're okay. So just things like that.
Yeah. And there's, you know, my buddy, it's funny, my buddy Kerry, as long as we've been friends, he still texts and calls. If I don't call him for like a week, he'll reach out and be like, hey, how you doing? Like, how's the family? Like he'll go in and I'll get him a response, and then he starts asking these questions. I'm like, I'm doing great. Like, well, how's the family? Well, how's the dog going? Hey, how's the new job? Hey, how's this? You know, and we end up, and then by the time we get on the phone talking, next thing you know, we've been on the phone for an hour and neither one of us can remember anything that we said, right? Because we've just been kind of going, throwing things at each other and tossing stuff back and forth. But we get off the phone, we've had a few laughs, you know, we've had some good fun and got to catch up, and then we just, you know, kind of move on to the next time.
Yeah, just put the world to rights for now, and yeah.
Right.
But it's good because it gets you out of that little box in your mind that that becomes your whole universe. And having a conversation like that, it tends to, I don't know, expand your world a bit, you know, from your viewpoints at the time.
Right.
Which is, when you're just stuck in that catastrophic little nightmare.
It's a moment of recovery is what it is, because you're in trauma.
It is.
Excellent conversation.
Great way to put it.
Trauma recovery. And if you can shorten that gap is where life will get to be joyful, right? So let's have those conversations. Have them every day, every hour.
Yeah.
Shorten that gap.
Yeah, PTSD has taken a lot of years from me. Oh, I've allowed it to take a lot of years from me.
Well phrased.
You know,
I'm not into the blame game. I don't believe in the blame game.
Yeah.
I play messing around with the other staff, and I'm very good at it, especially when I apply psychology. So it's a good job I don't do it.
Well, Sean, with your psychology background, so I was at this thing, and I used to get really, really ticked off, like super ticked off, when people would say, "Well, you just got to stop getting mad. You just got to stop getting frustrated." I'm like, you know, and like when they said that, I really wanted to I would make me more
calm down.
I just wanted to smack them, right? It's like, you know, but anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm at this retreat and I'm listening, and they're like, you know, there's a system 1 and a system 2, you know, that thing is, one is how you respond, or, you know, what happens just off the spur of the moment. And then how do you respond after that? Well, I'm like, well, my gap between 1 and 2 is really wide right now. Like, I got to bring the gap in, you know, I got to get them when they're a little closer. But we were talking about that, and I'm like, to the point where I went back as a mentor to this retreat. And when it was being explained the next time, the lady that had explained it, when it kind of like, it was this big revelation to me. I'm like, this big light bulb went off, and I got mad at her because I thought she didn't explain it as well as she did the first time. So I'm sitting over there frustrated. So now I'm in that place again that I shouldn't have even been. You know, I was getting upset because she wasn't explaining. Like, come on, say it this way. You know, so it was just like, and my buddy was like, "Come on, man." I'm like, I wanted it to be as powerful for them as it was for me. You know, it really that made sense. That made sense to me. You know, and sometimes it just takes that one way of phrasing it, or verse, or word, and you're like, oh man, finally. And that's what happened to me. I'm like, oh, finally, I can start being like, okay, I reacted. What do I do now? Do I take deep breaths? Do I count to 10? Do I turn around and punch the wall? You know, what do I do? And trying to figure that out. Now that's the key. That's the tricky part. Still working on that one.
Yeah. I'm finding this as I get older with the brain injuries, because one of the worst parts of the brain that took the worst injuries was I really didn't prepare for this. Anyway, they were here. They had a grazing round in Iraq. Just hit me there, and just at the back here. I won a lump hammer. Yeah. But it all affected parts of the brain that control emotional response. So the part slightly damaged that provides the emotional response, but what's really messed up is the part that regulates how big the response is.
Oh, the amygdala.
So it seems like I'm blowing up at the slightest thing, but you've got the hypervigilance from the PTSD as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it has the same sort of effect. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of shouting a lot lately. But there's always a but. My anger is warranted. My level of anger is not. But what I'm seeing now, because I'm staying in a place at the moment, I'm trying to get my own place now. Again, it's supposed to be mental health supported living, and I keep saying to them, "Look, you can't." It's always constant argument. Look, you're not doing your jobs properly. It's private Nigerian care-for-profit company, and all they're bothered about is the profit. So I'm living in a place where I'm seeing everything that's wrong with working mental health. I worked in mental health. I suppose I still do, but for local authorities, I worked in mental health for nearly 17 years. So when I see somebody gaslighting or bullying a resident, or they try with me, one guy, he's been fired already, and there's legal proceedings from the police and from the company and from me at the moment, because they just allow it to happen. And so my emotional responses at the moment are quite extreme. But it is a problem. However, the good news for me is, after 43 years of needing it but not knowing, I was picked up by one of these charitable organizations that deal with their brain injury specialists, one of those centers. So to say I'm not doing anything for me is not quite true, because that will benefit me immensely, and it should improve my life. So just because I'm not out playing football, not that I could now, or just out partying every night. I'm getting too old for that anyway. But yeah, I'm doing things for myself, I suppose. I just have to take little breaks where I can, because I'll lay down for the night after doing 18 hours for the War Within, and then my phone will vibrate. I'm just falling asleep. And I can't help but look, and even if there's no problem, I'll just think, I'll just go online and make sure everyone's okay, make sure there's no problems, make sure there's nobody just white knuckling it and not being picked up. I've got 1,000,001 reasons to go and do more work. I suppose it's quite sad that I don't really have any reasons not to. So my work is my therapy. So I suppose it's quite self-perpetuating, really.
Yeah,
in that, where's the healing for you, Sean? Do you find healing in it in your work, or just motivation?
I have little healing moments where, I don't know, we got a couple at the moment, they're like Love Young Dream, even though they're in the 70s. she had to go into hospital. She had major surgery. She was in a coma. She had some real nasty tumors that had to be removed. She finally gets home, and my friend, bless him, there's a crack of thunder one night. He leaps off the bed, crashes into the wardrobe head first, causes brain bleed. So now he was in the hospital for a month. So we're helping him get through that, and I've just been through a big breakup, so I really couldn't be bothered with anything. And now they're home together, and we've been through the whole journey with them. I find that quite healing. The smile on my face and the way I feel while I'm smiling for them. Yeah, they're my little moments.
If someone wanted to, let me ask you this: if the War Within, how do they, how would I contact you? So say I wanted to link up and wanted to make sure you and I we're going to stay connected anyway, because we've met now, and whether you like it or not, Sean, we're connected.
I'm not any problem with that.
And I think it's, and I joke sometimes about it, because it's one of those things. We love people, Sarah and I, we like what we do, but if I wanted to stay where I could get a hold of you really easily, is there a Facebook page? Is there, how do I do that?
That's why there'll always be a Facebook page. The easiest point of contact, and my cell number, if one of them hasn't removed it for my safety, I don't know why they keep doing that, but my cell number should be on the War Within. Okay. And it's becoming quite clear. I don't mind jumping on any personal account and making it clear who I am. Because if I've had to do that, there's a good reason, instead of just trying to hide. Why try and hide it? I mean, you get a lot of friend requests.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's probably the easiest point of contact, and from there, if you left a message on the private message board, then yeah, you would definitely get contacted. Because if I don't go in, my little probie, excuse me, I'm just having to do something. Yeah, she's always checking the messages, and she checks your messages as it goes. So quite a lot, because she knows it's really important to me, and as much as I was dreading this, I really wanted to do it. So she's been passing messages back and forth. So yeah, if I'm not there, then I will find out the day that the message is read.
Well, just so you know, you just gained one more follower, because I just went and liked that page, because I want to make sure we stay in contact. So I think it's great. And looks like there's quite a few folks that have said they like what you're doing. So I think that in itself is a true testament to who you are and what you're about. I feel it. I feel it, Sean. I do. I feel it. And you're very authentic. You're who you are. Sometimes we get on these podcasts and we're interviewing folks, and we're like, okay, well, we'll have to go look and see who this guy really is. I feel there's a connection, because when we're speaking, it's coming from your heart. It's coming from who you are. I can just see it you know, working out of your body. And man, I appreciate you, because I never know who Sarah's going to bring on to these things. So he likes to see my reaction, you know, and likes to get those, and we love the authentic responses, which is kind of why I didn't do any research last night. I didn't promise anybody I wouldn't, and I didn't try to figure out who you were, and but I'm so glad I didn't, because I
am
had
an open
nothing.
book, my friend. I believe in
Yeah.
transparency. I'm a
Yeah,
firm believer in it, which is why I share with people whatever is going on with me, whether I can cope
yeah,
with it or not, good or bad. I might not have the answer yet, or I might be sharing a problem from a while back. But the one thing that everybody has said is they love the transparency, the raw honesty. They know they're not alone because they can believe somebody has or is going
yeah,
through what they're going through, because they're
yeah,
reading it. They say they're reading parts of their own lives. But it's
yeah.
it really does break my heart that there's so many people that have to turn to social media.
Yeah, no, I will tell you,
And
wow,
we do
I just,
stand alone. Sorry, we stand alone in being the only fully public access page that is deemed a safe place for mental health, people with mental health issues to just go and be. I don't know if you I take it you guys have got a Facebook page for what you do here.
we do.
Have you?
We're growing. We're
Yeah.
growing in
Do you
this.
get
It's
hit by
something.
those? Do those micro terrorists spam all your stuff as well?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Micro
absolutely.
dosing,
Yeah.
that's what I call them, micro terrorists. Oh, one of our
Yeah.
reviews. Yeah, you see, you had a quick look. Did you see the review for that lady's herpes that we cured?
I don't know if I saw that, but I'm gonna be doing looking at your site a lot once we get off here.
I declared war on one of these spellcasters from Instagram. I said, and it makes my blood boil, and I keep telling her, get off my fucking page, for the simple reason that you are preying on people, very vulnerable people at their most vulnerable time. And if I find out who you are, but they make my blood boil. I just wondered if it was just those because of the viral page and all that.
Well,
But
I always tell
that was all
people,
incidental.
yeah,
The
you know,
success is incidental. So
the getting the blood boiling is what, you know, we take those deep breaths for. But you know, the fact that your blood does boil, again, that's more of that authenticity. That's more of that, you know what, we know you care. You know, when I was in the military and people would get all frustrated, come in and, you know, start throwing 4-letter words and all this kind of stuff, I wouldn't get upset, because I'm like, well, at least I know you, and you know, I know you care, because people don't get upset
yeah,
about stuff, don't get
at
frustrated
least
about
you've got
stuff.
passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
That's right.
sometimes I'll ask somebody if they want to help out, and I've never done this before. It's like, dude, oh yeah, I didn't tell you how I got the job, did I? My wife died in 2013, and I spent a couple of months in hospital, veteran. I was, and I had the beer on the table, pistol under the chin, sort of an evening. And a friend had me admitted to hospital. It was after she died. I got out 6 months later, and I found this Facebook page, PTSD the War Within. So I emailed them. I didn't message them. I emailed them. 20 saying that this is what's happened. I was with my wife for 18 years, married for 13. You know, and we had it all. And this is what happened. 20 minutes later, due to an admin error, they emailed me back and offered me a job.
Yeah. Wow.
Pure
That's awesome.
chance. And I
Yeah.
freaked
Okay.
out, and I didn't know what I was doing. That's what I say to people: do you think I knew what I was doing 10 years ago?
No, that's
Yeah,
so
but look what
awesome.
you've done. I said, yeah. And do you think I knew what I was doing, or do you think I was just sort of stumbling along and just winging it a little bit? And it turns out I'm pretty good at it, but I didn't know that. The only thing I knew was PTSD. And to assure anybody that does use us for anything at all, everybody who works on the War Within has to have PTSD. Not know
and
about
care.
it, not be married to somebody who's got it. They have to have it.
Right.
I had the honor of writing some rules about 10 years ago, and that is one of the golden rules.
That's awesome. I was going to say, as we wrap things up, we like to end with a positive story, and you already ended with one, so that's awesome. Greg, I gave you warning on that. Do you have a story for us as well?
No, you know what's fun? Well, you know, Sean, when he said that, I almost said, "Hey, Cyril, there's our positive story at the end." I almost brought it out, and you know, the story that I'll tell now, and this really just has to do with where we're at right now, the three of us. You know, you think about your journey, and I think about mine. I was medically retired at 29 years because of, you know, multiple things, and we won't go into all that because we are at the end. But who would have thought, you know, like today, you know, on the Sunday after Friday the 13th, you know, it's the 15th today, that three guys in three different countries, the three of us would be sitting here having this conversation and just, you know, doing nothing but telling stories and loving on each other and making sure we're all good. And I love that. Like I said, that is what this is all about. And I want us all to stay connected. And man, the way you wrapped up that,
to do that, yeah.
And you know, maybe get you back on here on a regular basis to where maybe we set it for, you know, a time and bring some of your cohorts and your counterparts in there too, and we just grow this thing. And at the end of the day, just say, you know what, let's just see who we can help, because that's what matters. That's really what matters.
Yeah, changing one life at a time, as we're allowed to, because you can't, obviously, you know this, you can't push help on people. So that just makes it more of a privilege to me. I know I tell people I'm a corny fucker. I really am, but I firmly believe this stuff comes from the heart.
Yeah. Oh, it does. You can tell.
I apologize for the fractured thinking. I was literally on my way back from hospital, from being in hospital. That's why I was a bit late getting onto the Zoom.
Yeah. Anybody who minds, you don't want to talk to anyhow, Sean. Right?
Say again?
If we minded, if we got pissy about it, you don't want to talk to us anyhow, right? It's like, who do you want to talk to? People who are loving and caring on the other end. If we're not in that situation, move on.
Well, but it's partly because I couldn't prepare, because you just wouldn't give me a hint.
Me neither, Sean. Me neither. We're on the same. We're in the same boat, Sean. We're in the same boat. But it was fantastic. I wouldn't have wanted you to be anybody else or any other way. And as prepared as you're prepared, it may not be written down, but you were prepared 10 years ago when you accidentally got that job offer. And man, I'm so glad you got it. And I'm glad we're sitting here now.
Well, I appreciate both of you. Thank you. And that is the main message. I'll just say it one more time. Whatever you're going through, I can guarantee whoever you are not alone, and you will see that. You just pop along. If it's 3 in the morning and you've got those silly razor blade thoughts, then get your ass on Facebook and have a look.
I think that's a good ending right
there. We'll take it from there. We've actually had dealings with Wounded Warrior Foundation. We helped a lad get a property secured, an apartment secured for a year for him and his 2 girls. So yeah, awesome. They're the little moments again, you know. Things like that make it all worthwhile. They really do. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. It's great meeting you.
The other thing is, I want people to see that, you know, I'm as bad as them. You know, I've got as many problems as them.
Awesome. Excellent, guys. Beautiful day.
All right. Yes. You have a lovely evening or a lovely day. All right. Take care.